The distress signal came through the Galactic Communication Network at 0347 Standard Time, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Commander Zexhai of the Elthurian Defense Force watched the holographic display with growing concern as the message played for the third time. "This is Captain Veltar of the research vessel Harmony's Edge. We are under attack by unknown hostiles near the Kethmore system. Our shields are failing, and we cannot jump to hyperspace. We are a peaceful scientific expedition with no weapons. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need immediate assistance. We have civilians aboard, including younglings. This may be our final transmission." The message cut to static, leaving the bridge of the Stellar Providence in tense silence. Zexhai's forearms moved across the control panels with practiced efficiency, his scaled skin shifting from its normal blue to a worried purple. "Navigation, set course for the Kethmore system, maximum speed," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen too many battles. "Communications, send word to command that we're responding to a distress call. And patch me through to the fleet." The Stellar Providence was part of a joint patrol, 5 ships from different species working together to maintain peace in this sector of the galaxy. The Elthurians provided the command ship, while the Vex and I contributed their superior sensors, the Mordun their heavy weapons, and the Korthak their advanced shields. It was a good mix, representing the best of the Galactic Alliance. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Yexare from the communications station, "I'm getting responses from the other ships. They're all confirming course change and maximum speed." "Good. How long until we reach the system?" "At current speed, approximately 4 hours, sir." Zexhai nodded, settling back in his command chair. 4 hours felt like an eternity when lives hung in the balance, but it was the best they could do. The Harmony's Edge was a well-known research vessel, famous for its peaceful missions and scientific discoveries. The thought of it being attacked by unknown hostiles sent a chill through his exoskeleton. "Sir," Yexare's voice carried a note of confusion, "I'm receiving another response to our alert. It's from the Terran sector." The bridge fell silent. Every being present knew about the Terrans humans, they called themselves. They were newcomers to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. More importantly, they were from a world classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, the highest rating on the galactic scale. Most civilized species came from Class 1 or 2 worlds, peaceful, stable planets with gentle weather and predictable ecosystems. The humans came from a world of constant danger, where everything seemed designed to kill them. "What do the Terrans want?" Zexhai asked, though he suspected he already knew. They're offering assistance, sir. A human admiral named Shen says they have a fleet in the adjacent sector and can reach the Kethmore system in 2 hours. Zexhai's skin shifted to a deeper purple. The humans were known for their aggression, their seemingly suicidal bravery, and their disturbing tendency to turn everything into a weapon. They had been admitted to the Galactic Alliance only reluctantly, and most species kept their distance from them. "Sir?" Yexra prompted. "Should I respond to the humans?" The commander weighed his options. The research vessel might not have 2 hours, let alone 4. But inviting humans into a crisis situation was like asking a predator to help with a delicate surgery. Still, the Harmony's Edge had younglings aboard. "Tell them we appreciate the offer, but we have the situation under control," Zexhai decided. "We'll handle this ourselves." "Understood, sir. Transmitting now." The next few hours passed in tense preparation. The fleet ran combat drills, checked weapons systems, and tried to gather intelligence about what they might face. The Kethmore system was on the edge of explored space, bordering the territory of several unaligned species. It could be pirates, rogue military forces, or something else entirely. As they approached the system, the sensor officer, a Vex NI named Slicktar, began reporting his findings. "I'm detecting debris, sir. Looks like it's from the Harmony's Edge. Also reading multiple unknown vessels, configuration unfamiliar." "How many unknowns?" 12 ships, sir. They appear to be surrounding something. Wait, I'm getting life signs from a small object. It might be an escape pod. Can we communicate with it?" "Attempting now, sir." A moment later, Slicktar's expression darkened. "Sir, I'm in contact with the pod. It's Captain Veltar. She says the hostiles destroyed her ship and captured most of her crew. She only escaped because her science officer created a diversion. The hostiles are demanding the research data they were collecting, some kind of new hyperspace technology." Zexhai felt his blood run cold. If these attackers were after hyperspace technology, they weren't just pirates. They were something much more dangerous. "Formation Delta," he ordered. "We go in careful and assess the situation. If we can negotiate." "Sir!" Slicktar's voice cracked with alarm. "The unknown ships are changing course. They're heading straight for us, and they're charging weapons." The tactical display lit up with hostile contacts. 12 ships, each one larger than anything in Zexhai's fleet, were bearing down on them with clear aggressive intent. Their design was unlike anything in the galactic databases, all sharp angles and aggressive lines, built for war rather than exploration. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Zexhai commanded. "Return fire only if fired upon. We need to." The first energy blast cut through space like a crimson blade, barely missing the stellar Providence. The second one didn't miss, slamming into their shields with devastating force. "Shields down to 60%, reported the shield officer. "These weapons are incredibly powerful, sir. Return fire. All ships, engage." The battle was brutal and one-sided. The unknown vessels, later identified as the Zelak hierarchy, a militaristic species from beyond the rim, were not only more numerous but also more heavily armed. Their weapons tore through Alliance shields like paper, and their armor seemed to shrug off return fire. Within minutes, the Mordun heavy cruiser was listing badly, its weapon systems offline. The Korthak vessel's shields were failing, and the Vex NI ship was trying to retreat while providing sensor support. "Sir," Yexaray called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zelak commander." "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a reptilian face with cold, calculating eyes. "Alliance vessels, you are interfering with Zelak hierarchy operations. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed." "This is Commander Zexhai of the Althurian Defense Force," Zexhai replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "You have attacked a peaceful research vessel and killed innocent civilians. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." The Zelak commander's expression didn't change. "Your threats are meaningless. We have already analyzed your capabilities. You cannot match our firepower. Surrender now, and we will allow you to depart with your lives." "We will not abandon the survivors of the Harmony's Edge," Zexhai stated firmly. "Then you will join them in death." The transmission ended, and the Zelak ships renewed their assault with even greater fury. The stellar Providence shuddered under the impact of multiple energy blasts, and Zexhai watched helplessly as his shield readings dropped rapidly. "Sir," Slicktar called out, "I'm detecting multiple new contacts jumping into the system. They're human ships." The tactical display suddenly filled with new contacts, dozens of them, appearing in perfect formation despite having just completed a hyperspace jump. At the center of the formation was a massive ship that dwarfed everything else in the system. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Federation Navy," came a calm voice over the communications channel. "Alliance vessels, we received your distress call. Are you in need of assistance?" Zexhai stared at the display in shock. The human fleet was enormous, not just in numbers, but in the sheer size of their vessels. The flagship alone was 3 times the size of the Stellar Providence, and it was accompanied by dozens of smaller ships that still outmassed most Alliance vessels. "Admiral Chen," Zexhai responded, his pride warring with desperation, we are engaged with hostile forces. Any assistance would be appreciated." "Understood. All Alliance vessels, withdraw to a safe distance. We'll take it from here." The Zelak commander's voice cut through the communications channel. "Human vessels, you are interfering with Zelak hierarchy operations. Depart immediately, or face the consequences." There was a pause, then Admiral Chen's voice returned, and Zexhai was surprised to hear what sounded like amusement in it. "Zelak vessels, this is Admiral Chen.
You attacked a peaceful research vessel, killed innocent civilians, and threatened alliance ships.
You're about to learn why nobody messes with our friends.
What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations.
The human ships didn't just open fire, they unleashed hell.
Weapons that HFY had never seen before lit up the darkness of space. Kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed tore through HFY shields as if they weren't there.
Energy weapons that seemed to bend space itself carved through armor plating like it was tissue paper.
But it wasn't just the weapons that were terrifying, it was the tactics.
The humans fought like they were insane, with a ferocity and coordination that defied belief.
They didn't just engage the enemy, they hunted them. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, cutting off escape routes and herding the HFY vessels into kill zones.
"By the void," whispered Slicktar, watching the tactical display in awe.
"They're not just fighting them, they're toying with them." The largest HFY vessel, apparently their flagship, tried to retreat toward the system's edge.
3 human ships intercepted it, their weapons carving through its hull with surgical precision. They disabled its engines, its weapons, its communications, everything except life support.
HFY Commander, Admiral Chen's voice was ice cold. "You wanted to know about consequences. Here they are." The remaining HFY ships tried to scatter, but the humans were everywhere.
They had deployed so many vessels that escape was impossible.
One by one, the hostile ships were disabled or destroyed, their crews either killed or captured. The entire battle lasted less than 20 minutes. As the last HFY vessel went dark, Admiral Chen's voice returned to the communications channel.
"Alliance vessels, the immediate threat has been neutralized.
We're scanning for survivors from the research vessel."
"Admiral," HFY found his voice, we owe you a debt of gratitude. Your intervention saved our lives."
"No debt necessary, Commander. That's what allies do for each other."
"Sir," Slicktar reported, "the human ships are deploying rescue craft. They're searching the debris field for survivors."
HFY watched in amazement as the human fleet transformed from a force of destruction into a rescue operation.
Ships that had been dealing death moments before were now carefully combing through wreckage, looking for any sign of life.
"Commander HFY," Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of satisfaction, "we found the captured crew of the Harmony's Edge.
They were being held on the HFY flagship.
All 43 beings are alive and unharmed." 43? HFY felt a surge of hope.
Captain Veltar said they had 45 crew members.
"We found the other 2 as well.
They were in the escape pod you detected earlier."
"Everyone is accounted for, including the younglings."
The relief was overwhelming. Not only had they saved the research vessel's crew, but they had also eliminated what appeared to be a serious threat to shipping in this sector. The HFY hierarchy's aggressive expansion had been stopped cold.
"Admiral," HFY said, "if I may ask, how did you mobilize such a large fleet so quickly? And how did you know we needed help?"
There was a pause, then Admiral Chen's voice returned with what sounded like embarrassment.
"Well, Commander, I have to admit something.
We were already on our way before you declined our assistance."
"I don't understand."
"When we received the original distress call from the Harmony's Edge, we immediately dispatched our nearest task force. We were hoping to arrive in time to help, regardless of whether you officially requested our assistance or not."
HFY felt his skin shift to a deep orange, the Althurian equivalent of a blush. "You came anyway, even though we told you we didn't need help?" "Commander, with respect, when someone attacks a peaceful research vessel with younglings aboard, that's not just an alliance problem, that's a galactic problem.
We weren't about to let protocol stand in the way of doing what's right."
The words hung in the space between them, and HFY realized that his preconceptions about humans might have been wrong.
These weren't the aggressive, unpredictable warmongers that galactic propaganda made them out to be. They were people who cared about protecting innocents, even when those innocents belonged to species that looked down on them.
"Admiral," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology.
I should have accepted your help immediately."
"No apology necessary, Commander. You were looking out for your people, same as I was looking out for mine. The important thing is that everyone's safe now."
As the human fleet began the process of transferring the rescued crew members to Alliance vessels, Zexhai found himself studying the tactical display.
The humans had brought an overwhelming force to what they thought might be a simple rescue mission.
It spoke to their thorough preparation and their commitment to ensuring success. "Sir," Yexare approached his command station, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Alliance Command.
They want a full report on the incident."
"Tell them they'll have it within the hour," Zexhai replied.
"And make sure to include a detailed account of the human fleet's actions. Their intervention was decisive." "Yes, sir."
"Also, Admiral Chen is requesting permission to conduct a full investigation of the wreckage.
They want to determine how advanced the Zilak technology is and whether this represents a larger threat." Zexhai nodded. "Granted. And ask the Admiral if he would join me for a debrief once the rescue operations are complete."
An hour later, Admiral Chen materialized on the bridge of the Stellar Providence via holographic projection. He was a tall, lean human with graying hair and steady eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His uniform was crisp and professional, but there was something about his bearing that suggested he was more comfortable in a combat zone than a conference room.
"Commander Zexhai," Chen said, inclining his head respectfully. "Thank you for inviting me to participate in the debrief. I think it's important that we understand exactly what happened here."
"Agreed, Admiral.
What have you learned from the wreckage?" Chen's expression grew serious. "The Zilak hierarchy is more advanced than we initially thought.
Their weapons technology is impressive, and their ships are built for extended military campaigns.
This wasn't a pirate raid, it was a test."
"A test of what?"
"Alliance response capabilities.
They hit a soft target, a research vessel, in a location where they knew Alliance forces would respond. They wanted to see how quickly we could mobilize, what kind of firepower we could bring to bear, and how we would coordinate between different species."
Zexhai felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying this was reconnaissance?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. The Zilak hierarchy is planning something big, and they wanted to know what they'd be up against.
The fact that they retreated as soon as they encountered serious resistance supports this theory."
"But you destroyed their entire fleet." Chen shook his head.
"This was a scouting force, Commander. Our intelligence suggests the Zilak hierarchy has hundreds of ships, maybe thousands.
What we faced today was just the tip of the iceberg." The implications were staggering.
If Chen was right, the galaxy was facing a threat unlike anything it had seen in centuries. The Zilak hierarchy was a militaristic empire with advanced technology and apparent ambitions for expansion.
"What do you recommend?" Zexhai asked.
"Joint patrols," Chen said without hesitation.
"Combined human alliance fleets patrolling the rim systems. We need to be ready for when they come back, because they will come back. The Alliance Council will need to approve such an arrangement."
"Then we'd better make sure they understand the stakes."
"Commander, I'm going to be frank with you, the Alliance military isn't equipped to handle this kind of threat."
"Your ships are designed for peacekeeping and patrol duties, not large-scale warfare."
"The Zilak hierarchy builds ships for one purpose, conquest." Zexhai didn't like hearing it, but he couldn't argue with the truth.
The Alliance had enjoyed peace for so long that its military had become more of a police force than an army. The humans, on the other hand, came from a world where warfare was a constant reality.
"What are you proposing?" "A joint defense initiative.
Human fleets provide the heavy firepower, Alliance ships provide the coordination and intelligence.
We work together to protect the rim systems and gather intelligence on Zilak capabilities." "And if the Alliance Council refuses?" Chen's expression was grim.
"Then the Zilak hierarchy will roll right over the outer colonies, and by the time the Alliance realizes the threat is real, it'll be too late to stop them." The conversation was interrupted by Slicktar's voice from the sensor station.
"Sir, I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures incoming.
Large formations, unknown configuration."
Every being on the bridge tensed.
If the Zilak hierarchy was returning in force.
"How many?" Zexhai demanded.
"At least 50 contacts, sir. They're dropping out of hyperspace now." The tactical display filled with new contacts, but instead of the sharp, aggressive lines of Zelak vessels, these ships had the elegant curves of Alliance design. A moment later, the communications channel crackled to life.
This is Admiral Kexthal of the Alliance Second Fleet. We received reports of hostile activity in this system.
What is your status?
Relief flooded through Zexhai. Admiral, this is Commander Zexhai.
The immediate threat has been neutralized, but we have significant intelligence to share about a potential invasion force.
Understood. I'm bringing the fleet to your position. We'll want a full briefing on the situation.
As the Alliance Second Fleet took position around the human task force, Zexhai found himself looking at the largest gathering of military ships in this sector in over a century. The sight was both reassuring and sobering. Reassuring because it represented the galaxy's commitment to peace, sobering because it suggested that peace was about to be tested.
Admiral Chen's holographic image flickered as he prepared to end the transmission.
Commander, I'll be filing my report with Terran Command. I suspect we'll be hearing from each other again very soon.
Admiral, Zexhai said before Chen could disconnect, I want you to know that your actions today have changed my opinion of humanity. You came to help when we needed it most, and you did so without hesitation or condition. That's the mark of a true ally. Chen smiled, the first genuine expression Zexhai had seen from him.
Commander, where I come from, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing.
Today, we all did something. The transmission ended, leaving Zexhai alone with his thoughts.
The human fleet was already beginning to withdraw, their mission complete.
But their presence had changed everything.
The careful balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and everyone was going to have to adapt to a new reality. Sir, Yxra approached with a datapad. Admiral Kexthal is requesting permission to come aboard for the briefing.
Granted.
And send a message to all ship commanders, I want them present for this meeting.
They need to hear what we've learned.
As the senior officers from both fleets gathered in the Stellar Providence's conference room, Zexhai couldn't help but think about the day's events. It had started as a simple rescue mission and had ended with the discovery of a potential invasion force. The intervention of the human fleet had saved not just the crew of the Harmony's Edge, but possibly the entire sector.
Admiral Kexthal was a distinguished Althurian officer with decades of experience.
His purple skin was marked with the scars of old battles, and his four eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen the galaxy change many times over. He listened intently as Zexhai recounted the day's events, occasionally asking for clarification or additional details.
So the humans believed this was a reconnaissance mission? Kexthal asked when the briefing was complete. That's Admiral Chen's assessment, and the evidence supports it. The Zelak ships were recording everything: our response times, our tactics, our capabilities.
They wanted to know what they'd be facing in a larger conflict.
And their own capabilities? Impressive, but not overwhelming.
However, if this was just a scouting force, the main fleet could be many times larger.
Kexthal was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. What did Admiral Chen recommend? Joint patrols. Combined human alliance fleets protecting the rim systems. And what's your assessment of that proposal? Zexhai chose his words carefully.
Sir, I believe the humans are our best chance of deterring a Zelak invasion. Their ships are specifically designed for warfare, and their crews are trained for combat in a way that alliance forces are not. If we're going to face a militaristic empire, we need allies who understand warfare. You're recommending that we formalize a military alliance with a species that's been part of the galactic community for only 50 years? I'm recommending that we recognize reality, sir. The humans saved our lives today, and they did so without hesitation. They're offering to help protect Alliance territory, and we'd be fools to refuse.
Kexthal nodded slowly. I'll relay your recommendations to the Council.
In the meantime, I want increased patrols in all rim systems, and I want every ship commander to review the tactical data from today's engagement.
If the Zelak hierarchy is planning an invasion, we need to be ready.
Over the following weeks, the galaxy began to change. The Alliance Council, initially skeptical of the human claims, found themselves presented with mounting evidence of Zelak military buildup.
Intelligence reports from various sources confirmed the existence of massive shipyards and training facilities in Zilak space. The humans, for their part, lived up to their word. Joint patrols were established, with human ships providing heavy firepower while Alliance vessels handled coordination and intelligence gathering. The arrangement worked better than anyone had expected. The humans' aggressive tactics complemented the Alliance's strategic thinking, creating a force that was both powerful and flexible. The first major test came 3 months later, when a Zilak invasion fleet of over 200 ships attempted to conquer the Meridian colonies. They found themselves facing a combined force of humans and Alliance members that was ready for them. The Battle of Meridian became legendary. The human ships, led by Admiral Chen himself, engaged the Zilak fleet in a brutal slugfest that lasted for hours. Their weapons, designed for warfare on a Deathworld, proved devastatingly effective against Zilak armor and shields. Meanwhile, Alliance ships provided sensor coverage and coordinated strikes, using their superior knowledge of galactic geography to cut off Zilak escape routes. The Zilak hierarchy's invasion was not just stopped, it was shattered. Over half their fleet was destroyed, and the remainder retreated in disarray. The threat that had seemed so overwhelming just months before had been decisively defeated. But the victory came at a cost. The human fleet suffered heavy casualties, with several ships lost and many more damaged. Admiral Chen's flagship, the Indomitable, was among the casualties, crippled by enemy fire but still fighting until the last Zilak ship retreated. Zexai, now promoted to admiral and commanding the Alliance forces at Meridian, visited Chen in the medical bay of the Stellar Providence. The human admiral was recovering from injuries sustained when his ship's bridge was hit, but his spirit remained unbroken. "The Zilak hierarchy won't be back anytime soon," Chen said, his voice slightly hoarse. "We bloodied their nose pretty good this time." "Your fleet took heavy losses," Zexai observed. "I'm sorry for the brave beings who died today." "They died protecting innocent people," Chen replied. "That's what they signed up for. That's what we all signed up for. The Alliance owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." Chen shook his head. "We're not keeping score, Admiral. We're all in this together now. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we're all safer when we look out for each other." As Zexai left the medical bay, he reflected on how much had changed since that first distress call. The humans had proven themselves to be exactly the kind of allies the galaxy needed: strong, reliable, and willing to sacrifice for the greater good. Their ships might be built for war, but their hearts were dedicated to peace. The partnership between humanity and the Alliance would continue to evolve over the years. Joint training exercises became common, with Alliance officers learning human tactics and human crews studying Alliance strategy. New technologies were shared, combining human weaponry with Alliance scientific knowledge to create ships that were both powerful and efficient. The Zilak hierarchy, meanwhile, found themselves facing a galaxy that was no longer divided and unprepared. Every time they probed the borders, they found human and Alliance ships waiting for them. Their plans for easy conquest were repeatedly frustrated by the determination of species that had learned to work together. Years later, when historians wrote about this period, they would identify the rescue of the Harmony's Edge as the turning point that changed galactic history. It was the moment when the galaxy learned that sometimes, when faced with an impossible threat, the best solution is to call for help from friends who understand that some fights are worth having. The humans, those warriors from a Deathworld, had brought their fleet of fire to answer a call for help. In doing so, they had not just saved one ship, they had saved the idea that civilization was worth defending, that the strong should protect the weak, and that allies stand together no matter the odds. And in the end, that was the most important victory of all. The alliance between humanity and the galactic community would face many more challenges in the years to come. There would be other threats, other crises that would test their resolve. But the foundation had been laid in fire and blood, forged in the crucible of battle and tempered by the shared sacrifice of beings who chose to stand together against the darkness. When the aliens had called for help, the Deathworlders had answered with a fleet of fire. And in that answer, they had found not just victory, but the beginning of a friendship that would endure for generations to come. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of hope. And as long as there were beings willing to stand up for what was right, willing to risk everything to protect the innocent, that hope would never die.
The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if reflecting the light of that hope. And in the darkness between them, the combined fleets of humanity and the Alliance continued their eternal vigil, ready to answer the call whenever it came.
Because that's what allies do for each other. That's what friends do.
And in a galaxy full of wonders and terrors, friendship might just be the most powerful force of all.
Admiral Zexhai stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Alliance human station orbiting the planet Kepler Prime, watching the construction of what would become the most advanced starship ever built.
The Unity was a massive vessel, combining the best of both human and Alliance technology, designed to be a symbol of cooperation and a deterrent to future threats. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" came a familiar voice from behind him.
Zexhai turned to see Admiral Chen approaching, walking with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of the Battle of Meridian.
The human officer had recovered from his injuries, but the scars remained, both physical and emotional. "She is indeed," Zexhai agreed. "Though I still think the name was a compromise no one was truly happy with."
Chen chuckled.
The humans wanted to call her Retribution, the Elthurians preferred Harmony, and the Vexen suggested Convergence.
Unity was the only name that didn't make anyone actively angry.
"Speaking of which," Zexhai said, "have you reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the Rim?"
Chen's expression grew serious. "The Zilak hierarchy is rebuilding faster than we expected.
Our spies report they've developed new ship designs, specifically to counter our joint tactics. They're also reaching out to other hostile species, trying to form their own alliance."
"The Krexdan Empire?" "Among others. The Voidstalkers have also been seen in Zilak space.
If they manage to unite the Rim's hostile factions..."
Zexhai didn't need Chen to finish the thought.
"A united coalition of aggressive species would pose a threat that even the Human Alliance partnership might not be able to handle. The peace they had fought so hard to protect was once again in jeopardy."
"There's something else," Chen continued. "We've been monitoring communications from the Zilak home system. They're planning something big for the anniversary of their defeat at Meridian.
Intelligence suggests it might be a coordinated attack on multiple Alliance worlds simultaneously."
"How many worlds?"
"At least 12, possibly more. They want to stretch our forces thin, make it impossible for us to respond effectively to all threats at once."
Zexhai felt his skin shift to a worried purple. "Do we have enough ships to protect all the potential targets?" "Not with conventional deployments. But I have an idea that might work." Chen gestured toward the Unity. "What if we don't try to protect every world? What if we let them attack, then hit them where they're not expecting it?" "You're suggesting we use the colonies as bait?" "I'm suggesting we use ourselves as bait. The Zilak hierarchy wants to prove they can defeat the Human Alliance partnership.
So we give them what they want, a direct confrontation with our combined fleets. We make it impossible for them to resist the target." Zexhai studied his friend's face, seeing the calculation behind the proposal. "You want to stage a fake vulnerability. Make them think they can win a decisive victory."
"Exactly. We position the Unity and a small escort fleet at the Nexus station, make it look like we're conducting some kind of critical research or planning session. The Zilak intelligence network will pick up on it, and they'll see it as an opportunity to decapitate the Alliance leadership in one stroke. And when they come, we'll be ready. The Unity isn't just a symbol, she's the most heavily armed ship in the galaxy.
Plus, we'll have our full combined fleet waiting in hyperspace, ready to jump in the moment the Zilak forces commit to the attack."
It was a risky plan, but Zexhai had learned to trust Chen's tactical instincts.
The human's aggressive strategies had proven effective time and again, and his willingness to take calculated risks had saved countless lives.
"I'll need to get approval from the Alliance Council," Zexhai said.
"And I'll need to convince Terran Command that risking their newest flagship is worth the potential payoff. But I think they'll agree, the alternative is fighting a dozen separate battles across Alliance space, with no guarantee we can protect everyone."
Over the following weeks, the plan took shape.
The Unity was rushed to completion, her systems tested and retested to ensure they would perform under combat conditions. Meanwhile, intelligence operatives began spreading carefully crafted misinformation about a critical strategic conference being held at Nexus Station.
The deception worked perfectly.
Within days, Zilak spy networks were buzzing with reports of alliance and human leadership gathering at the remote station.
The opportunity was too tempting to resist a chance to eliminate the architects of their previous defeat in a single decisive strike.
Captain Yixtra, the Unity's commanding officer, was a veteran Althurian who had served under Zexhai during the first Zilak encounter. She paced the bridge of the massive ship, reviewing tactical displays and status reports from across the fleet.
"Admiral," she reported to Zexhai, "all systems are functioning within normal parameters.
The ship is ready for combat operations."
"Good. And our intelligence? The Zilak fleet is larger than we anticipated.
Our scouts report over 300 ships, including several new designs we haven't seen before.
They're also bringing allies, at least 50 Krekstan vessels and a dozen Void Stalker ships." Zexhai felt a chill run down his spine.
350 ships was a massive force, far larger than anything they had faced before.
Even with their combined fleet, they would be outnumbered nearly 2-1. "Are you having second thoughts?" Chen asked, joining them on the bridge. "I'm having realistic thoughts," Zexhai replied. "That's a lot of ships, Admiral. Are we sure the Unity can handle that kind of firepower? We're about to find out. But remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight, we're trying to spring a trap. The Zilak fleet will be focused on the station and the Unity.
They won't be expecting our main force to jump in behind them."
The waiting was the hardest part. For 3 days, they maintained the fiction of a peaceful conference while long-range sensors tracked the approaching enemy fleet. The Zilak forces were taking their time, building up their strength and coordinating with their allies. Finally, the moment arrived.
The tactical display lit up with hostile contacts as the Zilak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They came in force, their ships arranged in a massive battle formation designed to overwhelm any resistance.
"All hands to battle stations," Captain Yixtra announced over the ship's communications system.
"This is not a drill.
Enemy forces are approaching, and we are going to give them a fight they'll never forget."
The Zilak fleet advanced slowly, cautiously, apparently expecting some kind of trap. But the Unity and her escort ships made no aggressive moves, maintaining their position near the station as if they were genuinely caught off guard.
"They're taking the bait," Chen observed, watching the enemy formation on the tactical display. "Look at their positioning, they're committing their entire fleet to the attack.
No reserves, no escape routes."
"Contact from the Zilak commander," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Zexhai ordered.
The holographic display flickered to life, showing the same reptilian face they had seen years before, though now it was marked with new scars and a more predatory expression.
"Admiral Zexhai," the Zilak commander said, his voice dripping with satisfaction.
"I am War Leader Kethzar of the Zilak hierarchy. You have been a persistent thorn in our side, but today, your interference ends." "War Leader," Zexhai replied calmly, "you're making a mistake. Withdraw your forces now, and we can discuss terms for peace."
"The time for discussion has passed.
You destroyed our fleet at Meridian, killed thousands of our warriors, and humiliated our hierarchy before the galaxy.
Today, we repay that debt with interest."
"So be it," Zexhai said quietly.
"But don't say we didn't warn you."
The Zilak commander's expression shifted to confusion, but before he could respond, the Unity opened fire.
The massive ship's weapons systems, the product of human engineering and alliance science, unleashed a barrage that lit up the darkness of space.
Energy beams that could crack planets struck the leading Zilak vessels, while kinetic projectiles moving at near-light speed tore through their formations.
But the Unity was just one ship, and the Zilak fleet was enormous.
Enemy fire began to rain down on the massive vessel, testing her shields and armor. The ship shuddered under the impact of hundreds of weapons, and damage reports began flooding in from across the ship.
"Shields down to 70%, reported the shield officer.
Multiple hull breaches on decks 12 through 15.
Engineering reports power fluctuations in the main reactor. Hold position, Zexhai ordered. We need to keep them focused on us for just a little longer."
The battle raged for what felt like hours but was actually only minutes. The Unity fought like a cornered predator, her weapons carving through enemy ships with devastating precision. But the odds were overwhelming, and even the most advanced ship in the galaxy couldn't withstand the combined firepower of 350 hostile vessels.
"Admiral," Captain Yixtra called out, "we're taking heavy damage. If we don't get support soon." "Now!"
Chen shouted into his communicator.
"All units, execute Operation Anvil."
The space around the Zilak fleet suddenly filled with hyperspace signatures as the combined Human Alliance fleet jumped into the system. 200 ships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons already charging and their targeting systems locked onto the enemy vessels. The Zilak forces found themselves caught in a perfect trap. They were committed to their attack on the Unity, their formations optimized for a frontal assault. The arrival of the Alliance fleet behind them threw their entire battle plan into chaos.
"This is Admiral Chen to all units," came the human commander's voice over the fleet communications network. "Light them up." What followed was the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The Zilak fleet, caught between the Unity's massive firepower and the combined Alliance fleet, was systematically destroyed.
Their ships, designed for conquest and intimidation, proved inadequate against the coordinated tactics of species that had learned to fight together.
The Krexdan Empire forces, seeing the destruction of their allies, attempted to retreat.
But the human ships were faster and more maneuverable, cutting off their escape routes and forcing them to surrender or be destroyed. The Void Stalkers, true to their nature, fought to the last ship, their vessels exploding in brilliant flashes of light as they were overwhelmed by superior firepower. War leader Kethzar's flagship, the Hierarchy's Fist, was the last to fall. Surrounded by Alliance ships and pounded by the Unity's massive weapons, it finally succumbed to the inevitable.
The Zilak commander's final transmission was a single word: impossible.
As the last enemy ship went dark, the combined fleet found itself alone in the system, surrounded by the debris of what had once been the most powerful military force in the Rim territories. The threat that had loomed over the galaxy for years had been eliminated in a single, decisive battle. "Damage report," Zexai called out, his voice hoarse from the stress of battle. "Heavy damage to the outer hull," Captain Yixtra reported.
"But all critical systems are functioning.
We'll need extensive repairs, but the ship is intact."
"Casualty report?" "Surprisingly light, sir."
The Unity's armor and shields performed better than expected.
"We have wounded, but no fatalities."
Zexai felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had won, and they had done so without the massive loss of life that everyone had expected. The plan had worked perfectly, and the galaxy was safe once again. "Admiral," Chen's voice came over the communications system, "congratulations.
You've just participated in the most decisive victory in galactic history. The Zilak hierarchy is finished, and their allies are either destroyed or in full retreat."
"The victory belongs to all of us," Zexai replied. "Human courage, alliance coordination, and the determination of beings who refuse to give up in the face of impossible odds.
That's what won this battle."
As the fleet began the process of rescue and recovery operations, Zexai found himself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had started with a simple distress call, a request for help from a peaceful research vessel. It had led to the forging of the strongest alliance in galactic history, and ultimately to the defeat of the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. The humans had answered that first call for help with a fleet of fire, and in doing so, they had changed everything. They had shown that strength without compassion was meaningless, that the strong had a duty to protect the weak, and that the bonds of friendship could overcome any obstacle. The galaxy was safer now, protected by the combined might of species that had learned to work together. The Deathworlders had brought their fire, but they had also brought their hearts. And in the end, that made all the difference. As the Unity limped back toward port, her hull scarred but her spirit unbroken, Zexai knew that they had done more than just win a battle. They had secured a future where cooperation was stronger than conflict, where different species could stand together against the darkness, and where the light of civilization would continue to shine among the stars. The aliens had called for help, and the Deathworlders had answered. And in that answer, they had found not just victory, but the beginning of a new age of peace and prosperity for all the galaxy's children.